Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mosaic International South Asian Film Festival live Q&A for Her Story to Tell, which is our shorts program number 3 in this year's 2020 digital edition of MISAFF. I am so delighted to welcome you and all the filmmakers, and also want to give a shout out to CCAI, who is presenting MISAFF this year. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's joining this call from all the way in Sri Lanka, to Goa, to the US, to the UK, and India. And I think it's just fantastic that we're able to keep these types of conversations going. And also on December 6th, what an auspicious day in Canada. It is my birthday, so very nice to be on with you and doing something I really love and enjoy, which is MISAFF. But also, it is a day in which we remember violence against women that occurred in Canada, and it's a Remembrance Day. So it's so fitting that we present this particular shorts program about women's stories, women's gaze, her stories, by a very multicultural South Asian diasporic group of filmmakers. And with me today is the lovely shorts programmer for MISAFF this year, Sally Rylett. Sally has done an outstanding job. Yay, Sally. I would love to have you take over now and introduce us to these great filmmakers and tell us a little bit and share the Q&A. Please, everyone, participate, continue to watch films during lockdown. And over to you, Sally.
Thank you, Anya, and happy birthday. As Anya mentioned, we have MISAFF 2020 is full of an amazing group of films. And today we have the honor to speak to filmmakers and actors from the shorts program 3, Her Story to Tell, which is a program made up of 5 amazing, intimate, and empowering films telling different female perspective stories. The 5 films in this program are Love, Sex, Soprano by Srimoyi Bhattacharya, Didi by Rehan Mudanayake, One Way Glass by Nauman Khalid, Dry Leaves by Ali Sohail Jora, and Be Selvian Daughters by Drishya. And I would also like to present Megha Sandhu, who's hosting the Q&A today. Megha was born in Montreal and discovered her love for acting when she was cast in 2 high school plays. As a teenager, Megha's innate passion for social activism, coupled with a flair for fashion, drew her to modeling and pageantry. In 2012, she won the title of Miss Teen Canada, and in 2019 was the first runner-up at Miss Universe Canada. It eventually led her to her first role in the indie feature film Arranged Marriage, a horror comedy where she plays Kamali, an American Punjabi girl struggling to navigate her way in an American society. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Behavioral Neuroscience with a minor in theater and is currently pursuing a full-time career in acting. So I'd like to pass it over now to Megha and to the amazing filmmakers who are on the call today with us.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Sally. I am so excited to be here for this year's MISAFF online edition. I'm so honored to be this year's MISAFF 20 star and to be here now hosting our live Q&A for Shorts 3, Her Story to Tell. As Anya mentioned, today is December 6th, and it is the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women here in Canada. So today, as we dive into an intimate collection of stories focused on female characters, I'd like to take a moment to honor and remember all the beautiful and strong women in our lives. So let us dive into it right away, starting with our first film in the series called Love, Sex, Soprano. We are joined today by director Srimoyi Bhattacharya and starring lead writer and producer Karanjit Kaur. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So ladies, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you got started in cinema and storytelling?
Srimoyi?
Is it okay? I couldn't hear you. Okay. So basically, I did engineering. Then I was working in thesis, and then suddenly one day I was working in UK, and I started doing a few courses on film because I thought filmmaking. I mean, film is like an amalgamation of all different art forms. So it was like a collective experience of all possible art forms. So that's how I joined Rainman Film School in London. I did a diploma on direction, and I did a short film there, and then started making films. And this film happened because of Taranjeet, because it is her poem, and we together worked on it. And yeah, that's how it's been my journey. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, okay.
Lovely. And Taranjeet, what about yourself?
So for me, my journey started pretty early, around the age of 13, 14. I started doing theatre in Chandigarh with my guru Neelaman Singh Chaudhary, where I trained in acting, and I was also writing poetry. And I joined films around 2011, 2012, and I worked in the first German film called Raju that won the Academy Award, then Mouth of Hell was nominated in BAFTA, and of course with Indian films with Aankho Dekhi, which has been a landmark film in my career. But being in cinema, in Indian cinema for last about 6, 7 years, I was feeling a certain gap between the films I was working in and the stories I wanted to tell and I wanted to share. And around that time only, I met Srimoy, and we always exchanged our stories and our views about cinema and how we would love to collaborate with each other. And about 2 years ago, I got into spoken word poetry, and I was writing and performing poetry actively on stage. And that's when the thought of converting a series of 10 poetry films like into a cinematic experience came. And we thought, okay, let's start with the first one. And Srimoy was the obvious choice because out of all the people I'd met in Bombay, she was somebody with whom I shared a certain chemistry, and I knew I could trust her with my writing. So that's how Love, Sex, Soprano happened.
That's amazing. I watched the film, and in many ways, to me, this film is about a woman's journey through the years. It deals with notions of oppressive ideologies, self-love, and self-actualization. I was just curious, what was the inspiration behind the film, and how did it all start?
I would say I think it's very significant and important for me that we are having this on a day which is a day marked for violence against women, because this film and the whole series of film is centered around stories that definitely focus on violence against women. And this story is the journey of a woman which starts with a very romantic viewpoint of love and going through a very destructive and violent relationship, and finally coming to terms with that you can be happy with just loving your own self and self-actualization in a more metaphorical way. I think the thought came from, I've been working in theater with groups of women, and a lot of stories came from their experiences, from my personal experiences, and of women at large around me who I kept meeting around in my journey in life. So, yeah.
Beautiful. I also really like the cinematography, especially towards the end of the film. I was curious as to where it was shot.
So that was firstly shot by Prashant Dandekar, who is a DOP of this film. He's brilliant. And we actually found this place very close to Bombay. It is near Lonavala. So, but I mean, how we shoot generally, we don't really go to a place and figure out the location, do the Reiki, and then go. We generally go with the equipment and find the location, and somehow it's magically the location that we are searching for. It just happens. So that's how we found this place. It's very close to Bombay, but yeah, it's a little hilly and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the cinematography and the locations that were chosen. So do you have any upcoming projects?
Yeah,
Like,
so I am working on post for two of my feature films right now, and I'm actually planning to shoot another in this month itself. So yeah, it's been a lot. But yeah, next year, most probably two of my feature films will release. Yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah, I think lots of them actually. In
Yeah.
terms of what I'm writing and producing, during the lockdown, I shot three short films with just one woman crew. That was my DOP, and I was doing rest everything. One of the films been shot by directed by Ramanjeet, and two other have been also directed by me because it was like a lockdown film and other people were not allowed in the complex. Apart from that, there are series of films that have been completed and will release in the coming year. I'm shooting for a film in Delhi with Anup Soni called Kabir, and then I'm going to shoot for a web show in the coming weeks. So yeah, there's lots happening.
lovely. Well, thank you, ladies. It was great speaking to you, and perhaps a bit later on in the show, we'll get back to more discussions. I'd now like to move on to our second short film, which is entitled Didi, which is directed by Rehan Mudanayaki, who also stars in in Funny Boy. So welcome, Rehan.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started. We know you're an actor, but you're also a director. So how did that evolve? And
I think it started when I was about 4 years old. My mom was an avid amateur photographer, and she had this chunky 35mm point and shoot Olympus camera that she'd carry around with her. And she'd capture people and places with. So I'd follow her around like as a child with like great fascination. And I learned how to load 35mm when I was, I think, maybe 4 years old. And I think she really inspired me to pick up a camera and start telling stories of my own. Then when I was about 9, I got a little camcorder about the size of my palm, and I started making all these terrible home videos with my sister, cut to music by The Strokes. And I started taking my camera to school and making these guerrilla style documentaries with my best friends. And yeah, I was just determined to pursue film, at university. So ended up studying at university in the UK and in Amsterdam, and started making my own films afterwards. And ended up making shooting Didi about 2 years ago, when I was doing my master's at University College London.
awesome. What drew you to the story?
I mean, several things. I mean, for people who may not have seen the film, it's a story of a young British Indian woman who is faced with a momentous decision when she's reunited with her long lost sister. The script, which was written by Radhika Jani, was just so thought-provoking and so captivating that I just felt kind of compelled to take on the project, so much so that I actually marched into the interview room the next day and I just kind of demanded that they give me like the directorial position. I was just like, I'm sorry, I'm making this film, I don't care what you guys do. This is such a beautiful script. It's so moving. But I mean, I guess if I was to go into specifics, I was amazed by the authenticity of Radhika's script, because much of the dialogue was in the vernacular. She'd even written in some Hindi. And yeah, it was mesmerizing because of this rich and nuanced world that she'd created, and her attention to detail in particular was impressive. I guess I also like that much is unspoken between the two sisters. In many ways, it's really a story or a study of the little moments that warrant attention.
Yeah, and I thought that the representation of these two South Asian women was so beautiful in the film itself. Can you tell us a little bit about any challenges that you faced during the process?
Yeah. I think one of the main reasons I took this on is because one of the biggest challenges South Asians face in the West is like the lack of opportunity available on and off screen. you'll often find incredibly problematic or stereotypical narratives, lots of misrepresentation and exoticization, partly because the stories are written by other people who might not have our experiences, or were often cast as, cab drivers or terrorists. And myself and the screenwriter kind of decided that enough was enough. And this is really a chance to kind of challenge those norms, albeit on a student level, by casting undergrads and postgrads of color, many of whom were women, in a South Asian story that kind of veered away from, your, from stereotypes and so we kind of ensure, like when we were casting this film, we ensured that 60% of our crew were people of color, 60 to 70% were women, which is quite rare, in a place like England where, most film crews are white, male dominated. I think by doing so, we were able to provide more opportunities and help students build kind of new skill sets, but I think it kind of enriched the overall film as well. And I mean, yeah, it's like a real cliche to say, but I really think that diversity needs to be celebrated in the films that we watch and the films we make. This film was an opportunity to do that.
Absolutely, and of course, without giving too much away, it was very much this universal story between these two sisters that are just talking it out through a day, and it's very relatable. So thank you. And do you have any upcoming projects that are in the works that you'd like to discuss?
I am in a film called Funny Boy, which I think you mentioned, though I can't really take any credit for that. That's Deepa's film, but you should all watch it. It's a beautiful, beautiful story of a young boy growing up in the 1970s, coming to terms with his sexuality amidst the 1983 ethnic riots. It's based on the acclaimed novel by Shyam Selvadure, and yeah, thank you for including it in your lineup this year. Yeah, we're all so grateful, and we're excited to be a part of your festival. So yeah, thank you for that.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Rehan. We're going to move on now to our next short film. It's called One Way Glass. And we have with us today director Noman Khalid and the leading actress, Amna Khalid. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I was really impressed with this film because in many ways, Farzana's character is a very independent, strong South Asian woman. And I was just curious to know, I guess, Noman, we can start with you. What was the inspiration behind the story?
It's the film's based on a short story by a friend of mine, Irfan Ahmad Urfi, who's a writer of short stories, and we go back a long way. So I was just struck by the story. It was very very unusual. Pakistani girl working, a Muslim girl working in a sex shop in Britain to make ends meet, and it stayed with me for a very long time after he read it out to me, and then he'd often come to me to sort of talk about his stories and take advice because I write as well. And so eventually, we talked about it for a very long time, and we decided to adapt it to the screen. And in the meantime, I enrolled at this film school, the London Film Academy, and did a certificate in filmmaking. I did have some previous experience of working in the TV industry in Pakistan. At one point, I was toying with a career in filmmaking, but that didn't happen, and I decided to do literature instead. But then there's a lot of overlap, both about storytelling, about so basically that's how it came about. Yeah.
Awesome. And Amna, can you talk to us a little bit about what drew you to Farzana's character and how you got involved with the project?
So I got involved with the project. I too read the short story early on when it first came out and found it fascinating and riveting. It was in fact Norman who suggested that I think about the character, and once I started thinking about the character, it appealed to me as someone who's lived in Pakistan and seen a lot of women struggle in that context, but I also spent a lot of time in the UK, so had some sense of what the immigrant community faces and what are the kinds of challenges that they're trying to overcome in a very different context. I felt I could relate to it and could bring something to the character. I particularly liked the idea of playing someone who in a short does two very distinct and different roles and does two very different kinds of personas on screen.
Absolutely. I love the transition between the different personas. They were so different and really interesting to watch. Were there any challenges that you faced, Noman, during this process that you thought you learned from?
Well, firstly, funding, but I overcame that by funding it entirely myself. So, and apart from that, I did approach a studio in London, a well-known studio, to provide me with technical expertise and various people to work on the film. But we started making the film, and then I fell out with the assistant director who who was responsible for doing a lot of the stuff, basically. And so I had to start from scratch. I had to find a team myself subsequently. And I found a group of very talented creatives, an excellent DOP, and a very efficient producer, and a diverse range of people, from international backgrounds. So I had people from all over, from Italy, from Germany, from Turkey, from Brazil. So a number of different countries who participated in the project, and quite a few women as well. So, yeah.
Awesome. And are there any upcoming projects that we should look out for?
Not at the moment. I'd like to make some more short films, but again, I think the issue is really funding. So once I'm able to get some funds together, I would love to make another short film.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today with us. And we'll now move on to our next short film, Selby and Daughters. So I'd like to welcome director Drishya Gautam and producer and co-writer Tarana. Welcome, ladies.
Hi.
So I watched the film yesterday, and to me it was very much about, well, first of all, we have this, feisty mom entrepreneur who's trying to, upkeep her business without giving too much away. Very much was about empowered women, empowering other women, and reminded me a lot about my actual relationship with my mother. So what was, sort of the driving force behind this story, and how did it all start?
Yeah, so it's so lovely to hear you say that, because, and that's the reaction that we've got from a lot of people, right from the stage where we share the script with our crew to right to the audience. So I think that's kind of where the idea came from in itself, is that it's based on a lot of relationships that I have seen. Well, my mother specifically was a working mom, so it was kind of the opposite of, without giving away too much, of Selby and Kavi's relationship. So I was a latchkey kid and she was working all day. But I saw that my friends' moms, and this was kind of obviously the norm, at least until our generation in India, where the mothers stay at home and they take care of the kid. But what happens is that as we grew older, as we became teenagers, we found that a lot of our moms who had given up their careers without a second thought, and honestly, a lot of them don't have any regrets. And it's amazing the kind of work that they do to bring up their children. But at 45, at 50, they think back and they have a lot of like unfulfilled desires. And specifically, there was one friend of ours, Tarana and I have a common friend, whose mom is an amazing, she makes amazing biryani. So her kids had grown up, they'd gone out of the house, and we're trying to convince her to start a biryani business. She's really that good. It's prawn biryani, it's amazing. But she looked at us and she said, me, an entrepreneur, never. And that just broke my heart because she's amazing at home. She runs the household. She makes biryani, and like she really makes industrial level biryani. So it's just this idea, and there were many other mothers in my life who have grown up with my childhood friends' mom who would have so many hobbies and call them hobbies, but they're all potential careers. And it's conditioning, and it's very deep rooted, deep seated. And so my idea was, what if a mother like so many of my friends' moms that I've seen turns around at 50 and decides, no, I want to take life into my own hands and I want to make this decision. And it was really important to me, like you pointed out, that it was about women helping other women, and it's not a charity case. She doesn't need help from anyone. She needs agency. She needs someone to just hand her the mic, so to speak, and she will take it from there. So that's the idea behind it.
Thank you. I was also particularly impressed with the music. I thought it was so enjoyable. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that. Are there any projects that we should keep an eye out or that you're in development right now?
Sure, Tarana, do you want?
I actually don't know how much we can say about it. We've been developing. I mean, I'm sure for all of us in the industry, the lockdown was just the time to kind of use all of this time that we had just being stuck at home to just get into all the creative development that we had been putting off for so long, because it's not like we could go to the floors and shoot. So we did. We are currently creatively developing a feature film that's like a single point of view, woman-led, kind of like a thriller film that is set in Chennai. So that's kind of what is our main thing right now. Our other film, Nassim, that we just finished, is actually at the festival, which is great as well.
Yeah. So Tarana and I work with Stray Factory. It's a small production studio based in Chennai and now Goa. So I'm out here. And so we have another film, Nasir, which is playing at the festival. And also we have another film, Nirvana In, which is for a short window going to be on a TVOD platform called Cinema Premiere this upcoming weekend. So two are features live, but Tarana and I specifically, we're working on writing our next feature film, which is about, as she said, well, if I were to give you a little bit more, it's about women's reproductive rights, which I think is very, very important and not spoken enough in the Indian context. So that's going to be fun.
Awesome. Lovely, ladies. Thank you so much. I guess we'll now hand it over to Sally and see if we have any questions or comments from the audience.
At the moment, I don't think we have any questions at the moment. So if you have any other questions you'd want to ask to the filmmakers, Nika.
I guess we can take this opportunity to also ask if where can we find you online? If you want to plug yourselves, guys. Anything, be it social media, any websites, where can we find you? We can start with Love Sex Soprano.
Yes, you can find Love Sex Soprano on, we have a Facebook page, and you can find me, Taranjeet Kaur, on Facebook, or taranjeet.official on Instagram. I can post those, and taranjeetkaur.com is my website. And yes.
Yeah, my website is www.srimoy.info. And you can find me on Facebook at Srimoy Bhattacharya and on Instagram as Sri_Moi. And our film is going to release soon too on YouTube. So yeah, you can find it from there.
Yeah.
Rehan?
You can find me on Instagram, at Rehan Mudanayaka. Same on Facebook. And if you want to follow Didi, it's at Didi Short Film on Instagram. And yeah, I think it's the same to Facebook, Didi Short Film on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. And Noman and Amna?
Yes, the films on One Way Class dash film on Instagram and Facebook. And I can be found on my email, which is Nauman, Nauman, 1968 at hotmail.com. Amna?
Sorry. The film, like Noman said, is on Facebook and Instagram. And if I need to be contacted, you can email me. I'm sadly not on Facebook myself. So you can email me on amkhalid at carleton.edu, carleton.edu.
Awesome. And Drishya and Tarana?
I think the easiest would be to follow Stray Factory, which is Stray Factory on Facebook and Twitter, and stray.gram on Instagram. And we tag ourselves on that all the time, so you can just find us through.
And Tarana and I have a page which is called Driz and Tran, because that's us. We're a writing duo. So all of our projects specifically is on that page. So there's DRIZANDTRAN, Driz and Tran on Instagram. The Stray Factory and Driz and Tran.
Awesome. Okay, I just thought we'd take that opportunity to give each other some plugs, because I know that is important as well. I'm curious to know, how has COVID affected your work? Be it anything that was in pre-production, if you were shooting, or even in post, how has it affected you? You can start again from Love, Sex, Soprano.
I can't say it has not affected, because an actor's job only happens when you go there for the shoots. So for a long time, like almost 6 months, there were no shoots happening. So finally, you have to decide how to create your own work, how to create your own film, spend time reading, writing. But I think the biggest challenge was while we did create, and I produced 3 short films and 2 videos. The greatest challenge is because my only source of earning a livelihood is through acting. So unless you get back to a shoot, so it's been a bit challenging, but I think with this starting of December, there is some ray of hope and positivity, and I got back to a film shoot and getting to a shoot of a web show. So things look better now. But I think it's been a rather tough time overall for the film industry.
Absolutely. Srimoy, how are you doing?
Yeah. So I think for all the artists, it has been a pretty tough, challenging time, because the shoots were not happening, especially for the film industry. I was doing the post-production for 2 of my films, so both got really stuck. And we actually started revisiting everything. So, but what happened very interestingly is that during the lockdown, I had locked the edit of my film. The color and sound was already done. But for those 4 months when I was at home, I realized that the film had to be edited again with the new found understanding of life, because COVID has actually changed our perception towards life also quite a lot. So yeah, so that's why I edited it again. So now I have to go for the post again. So that, but otherwise it's been quite a deep, soulful time, because we got a lot of time to spend with ourselves. And for any artist, I think that's a great opportunity to go within. So yeah, otherwise I have enjoyed it.
Absolutely. I know I've also been doing a lot of self-reflection during this time. Rehan, what about you? How have you been dealing, and how are things work-wise during COVID?
Yeah, as you all say, it has been an incredibly challenging time, and I've tried to use this time for self-reflection as much as possible. Having said that, I'm the kind of person who likes to be doing things. I like to be out in the field, getting my hands dirty, directing, and like, I think it was quite challenging being stuck indoors, unable to actually make these. I mean, I had 1 or 2 films that I had planned on making in London, and I was planning on flying there, and obviously like had to put those plans on hold, and that was, I guess it was a little frustrating, but I took that time to rework some of my scripts, start writing new ones, and in fact I took a few script writing masterclasses as well, so that I could see where I was going wrong with like what I was currently writing, what I'd written in the past, and yeah, I mean. Yeah, I'm hoping to get back out there next year and shoot what I've written this year. I guess, yeah, it's been a bit of a waste of a year, but you know, gotta make the most of it. And yeah, I feel confident. I've tried to do so. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think now we're going to pass it over back to Sally.
Thanks, Megha. And I'd also like to point out that this is the world premiere of One Way Glass, so congratulations to Naman and Amna.
Thank you for that.
And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank all of you for joining us on this very interesting Q&A. And I encourage everyone who's watching the Q&A to, if you haven't already watched Shorts Program 3, Her Story to Tell, please go watch it. It's 5 really amazing films. And share it post on social media, follow the filmmakers on social media. I'd also like to mention that we have 2 more Q&As coming up today. At 2 o'clock, we have a Q&A with the filmmaker from Parallel Lines, and at 5 o'clock with the filmmaker for Intizar. So make sure you check those out. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And have a great day and have a great rest of the festival, which is on until December 12th.
Thank you.
Thank you.